Okay, everyone, let's start with this revision video in relation to the third part of your chapter number 4, that is audit evidence chapter. Now we are entering essay 520, and after that I'll be taking essay 610. So these two standards are remaining, and we'll complete that in this part. Okay, देखते हैं यहाँ पे. Analytical procedures, as you know, is essay 520. It's a big standard. इसको अच्छे से करना मेरे साथ पहले देखता है. What is the meaning of analytical procedures? Analytical procedures is the evaluation of financial information through analysis of plausible relationship among both financial and non-financial data. Plausible का मतलब होता है यहाँ पे reasonable relationship या sensible relationship. Okay, so we try to find sensible relationship between two or more data which is given to us. Next, what are the examples of analytical procedures? So examples के लिए अपन ऐसे किया था यहाँ पे. Sir, examples के लिए पहले आएगा yes है prior periods, फिर बाद नेक्स्ट आएगा अपना anticipated results in the future, and next आएगा present information. बोलना मेरे साथ prior period, anticipated results, and then you will have the present information. Comfortable? इसके आगे नेक्स्ट आएगा सर व्हाट आर द कॉमनली यूज्ड रेशियोज व्हिच आर देयर इन दिस. तो कॉमनली यूज्ड रेशियोज में क्या क्या आएगा यहाँ पे. पहले आएगा एलिमेंट्स ऑफ इनकम और लॉस एज अ परसेंटेज ऑफ सेल्स. नेक्स्ट आएगा ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट टर्नओवर रेशियो, अकाउंट टर्नओवर रेशियो, इन्वेंटरी टर्नओवर रेशियो. ऑल द रेशियोज आर देयर. अगेन दिस इसमें यू हैव द लिबर्टी टू राइट एनी रेशियो दैट यू हैव लर्नड इन द अकाउंटिंग रेशियोज चैप्टर. तो वो रेशियो स्मार्टली यहाँ पे तो लिख सकते हो. यहाँ पे यू कैन गिव इफ दे आस्क फॉर 4 एग्जांपल्स यू कैन गिव 6 एग्जांपल्स बिकॉज पूरा पूरा चैप्टर में जो रेशियोज ही है आप जो भी लिखना है यहाँ पे लिख सकते हो. ओके, दैट इज द थर्ड क्वेश्चन दैट वी डिड इन दिस पार्ट. Then we go to the next area that was in relation to, so what is the purpose of analytical procedure? So purpose में अपने क्या किया था यहाँ पे. We had seen a code called pain end करके. ठीक है, याद है pain end. And pain end में अपने क्या देखा था यहाँ पे. We had seen sir first is piece है that is सब profit and loss के comparison में analytical procedures can really help. तो profit and loss का prior period से इस साल का profit and loss जो है उसमें कितना profit होता है कितना loss होता है इसका comparison में आपको analytical procedure help कर सकता है. Second A से आएगा in order to obtain audit evidence. You know very well that substantive analytical procedure is a part of your substantive test. Correct? Substantive procedures. Substantive procedures को हम दो part में divide करते हैं हमेशा, test of details and substantive analytical procedures. So there you can obtain the audit evidence. इनसे आएगा inter firm and intra firm comparison. इसमें आपको help कर सकता है. And last में आएगा it can help you near the end of the audit. So at the near the end of the audit, it can really help you out. Okay. Let's go further with the next part and let's see this area. Now we have done something called as sir. What are the examples? Just a second. What are the examples in relation to analytical your purpose of analytical procedures? इसमें you will think about the example that we had done in the class and you can look at the screen and अपन ये चीज़ किया था class में. And in this we had first done the accounting receivable के related matters. Then in that case I told you account receivable में अगर गड़बड़ होगा, that is debtors account में अगर गड़बड़ होगा तो कहाँ गड़बड़ होगा. It can be related to sales or it can be related to the कैश बैंक दैट वी आर रिसीविंग. सेकंड अकाउंट्स पेबल में गड़बड़ होगा. बोला अकाउंट पेबल में अगर गड़बड़ होगा तो कहाँ गड़बड़ होगा. कैश बैंक जो अपन पेमेंट करते क्रेडिटर्स को उस पे या तो फिर जो अपन ने परचेस किया पहले उससे. सो परचेज टू अकाउंट्स पेबल और इट कैन बी अकाउंट्स पेबल टू कैश बैंक, उसमें गड़बड़ हो सकता है. नेक्स्ट सर रिगार्डिंग इन्वेंट्री गड़बड़ कहाँ हो सकता है. सर फैक्ट्री से गोडाउन में सामान आ गया एंड गोडाउन से व्हेन वी आर गिविंग इट टू द डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर, इन दैट केस फ्रॉम फैक्ट्री इफ 100 यूनिट्स हैव गॉट ट्रांसफर्ड एंड गोडाउन after the distribution of 90 units to the distributor has been done, after it is done, if there are only 7 units, बोलो अगर फैक्ट्री से 100 यूनिट्स आया है और डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर के पास 90 यूनिट्स गया है तो गोडाउन में कितना होना चाहिए. 10 यूनिट्स होना चाहिए. लेकिन इफ द गोडाउन में अगर 7 यूनिट्स ही है देन वी विल डाउट दैट देयर इज मिस अप्रोप्रिएशन ऑफ गुड्स. ओके, नेक्स्ट में आएगा अगर फैक्ट्री में 100 यूनिट फैक्ट्री से 100 यूनिट्स भी आए, फैक्ट्री से 40 यूनिट्स भी आए, हमने डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर को यहाँ पे दिया है यहाँ पे 98 यूनिट्स. Now in the go down, no, what is happening is we are showing 42 units, but what if I tell you that जो second lot of 40 units है ना वो अभी तक go down पहुंचा ही नहीं है, वो in transit है, वो रास्ते में अभी भी. तो then sir, suppose if it is in transit, then how can the go down keeper show it as 42 units? Now we'll take the example again. Look here, factory से 100 goods have come to the go down. From that 100 you have given to the distributor 98 units. So in your go down how many units should be there? 2 units should be there. But अपन ने record कितना किया है? We have recorded as 42 units. Now 40 units you have made a mistake because that 40 units का what you can see in the from factory वो 40 units which are there they are in transit, वो अभी तक godown पहुंचा नहीं है. So even though it has not reached the godown, still the godown keeper is showing it as 42 units. It means he has done something called as a pre-entry which is wrong accounting. ठीक है. So from that the auditor will come to know that there is a problem in the accounting part. Next आएगा trading account. Look at the trading account on the right hand side. बोलो gross profit में अगर कोई कमती हो गई, if there is a decline in the gross profit percentage, then your doubt will go where? Sir, maybe the company has not recorded the sales or closing stock properly, or the company's purchase price has increased to such an extent and the sales is not increased, the selling price per unit has not increased by that much extent, in that case the gross profit will reduce, in that case. Last में interest and dividend के related the point was, sir, interest accrued, whatever interest accrued, if you have received it, then great, then there should be no outstanding. Sir, but if interest has accrued and still if there is an outstanding amount, in that case we have to reconcile, because there is a difference between interest and dividend. Simple. That is basically this. Interest and dividend मतलब interest and dividend का जो accrual वाला amount है, जितना मिलना चाहिए था और जितना हमको outstanding दिख रहा है यहाँ पे, outstanding अगर दिख रहा है मतलब हमको पूरा amount मिला नहीं है, ठीक है? That is why we have to reconcile and see कि why that amount has not been received yet. Let's go further to the next area. देखते हैं यहाँ पे. Okay. Now we are doing timing of analytical procedures and we are doing उसके साथ साथ just a second, 1 second, please wait. Yeah, we are doing timing of analytical procedures. उसके साथ साथ we are doing benefits of analytical procedures. इसमें एक simple answer था यहाँ पे. I had shown you that the analytical procedures can be done at the planning phase, at a testing phase, and at the completion phase. तीनों phase में अपन कर सकते हैं. इसको कोई problem नहीं है. इसका benefits क्या मिलेगा? अगर planning phase में करते हो, so you can, अगर आपने analytical procedures पहले कर दिया, then you get the advantage that later on your, because you have done the ratios and trends at the beginning only, you can plan your audit procedures in a much better manner. So your nature, time and extent of audit procedures will change based on that. Second, if you do analytical procedures at the substantive phase, then in that case you can obtain more evidence regarding the organization. And the best part is this evidence will not take that much time also, because test of details will take more time. And analytical procedures is, as I told you in the class, is similar to a shortcut that you're applying. Last May, if you do the analytical procedure at the completion phase, the advantage is that, sir, if we have done the test of details and we have reached the RA level, now after reaching the RA level, we can do analytical procedure just to confirm whether our answer from the test of details is proper or not. So you can use analytical procedures to confirm whether आपका test of details करने के बाद आपका जो reply, जो आपका आंसर मिला वो सही है या नहीं. एग्जाम्पल लेते हैं यहाँ पे. Let's say sales का test of details करने के बाद, sales का invoice सब check करने के बाद, the value is coming to, let's say, 100 crores, sales 100 crores आ रहा है उसमें. Now what you will do is, even though you have reached the RA level, what you will do is, you will still apply analytical procedures and check कि debtors turnover ratio use करके, या inventory turnover ratio use करके, या तो फिर net profit to sales use करके, या तो फिर gross profit to sales use करके, आप कोई भी ratio use कर लो, and you will see whether the amount is coming closer to 100 crores or not. Let's say the amount is coming to 98.4 crores. बोलो, is it close to 100 crores? Yes. So you will rely on that test of details of information मिला है वो. What if I tell you that the amount you are getting after doing analytical procedures, you are getting the amount of 67 crores. So now there is a big difference कि test of details आपको आंसर मिला था 100 crores and analytical procedures आपको आंसर मिला है 67 crores. Now you will get worried because now you will doubt कि शायद हमने यहाँ पे audit थोड़ा गलत तरीके से कर दिया. So in order to overall review, third point देखना नीचे, overall review of the financial statement करते समय, it will help you, that is at the final review stage of the audit. बोलो clear याद आ गया? Simple. Then after that we had done your favorite answer in the world. इसका question ये था, remember this? So your question in relation to this was, sir, what are the substantive audit procedures? When we do that, what are the factors we have to keep in mind? So factors to be considered in the case of substantive audit procedures. बोलो यार, this was our very nice story of me cooking for family story. याद है कि नहीं है? बोलो पहले क्या करेंगे? डेटा अवेलेबिलिटी, फिर क्या करेंगे? डिसएग्रीगेशन, फिर क्या करेंगे? सोर्स, फिर दैट फायर विल कम नियर योर फेस, दैट इज इनहेरेंट रिस्क, देन you will type it to your friend, account type, फिर मैंने धनिया डाला अपन ऊपर से, that is called nature of assertion, and finally predictability. ठीक है, you will ask your family members to predict. ठीक है, so this was a very simple answer. I hope it is done. इसका जो content है is very very important. Go through it very carefully. Detailed explanation of this we are done in the class. In class specifically for this answer and the next one, I had taken out a lot of time. So ensure करना कि ये answer अच्छे से करो. ठीक है. Next answer also equally important, and let's go to the right answer now. Just a second, there is some issue with the laptop. 1 second, please wait. Okay, the next answer was not okay. We'll do one thing. We'll do this in the flow which is appearing on the screen, and then after that I'll tell you the numbering part किस तरीके से work करता. Techniques available as substantive analytical procedures. In this we have done a code called trees. Trees में आएगा trend analysis, ratio analysis, reasonableness test, and structural modeling. इस तरीके से हमने किया था ये. Okay, that completes this answer. Let's go further. Okay, now we have done this answer, very very nice one. Sir, analytical procedures used as substantive tests. तो अपने ये आंसर किया था, what analytical procedures should be used as substantive tests. तो इस बार मैंने एक कोड था assured करके, फिर remember that is suitability, reliability, expectation and difference, इस तरीके से था. Now, when is it more suitable? For that, we had done the examples also. ये example को अच्छे से read करना. Mark those examples as star. I told you in the class that there are some answers you have to read and you do it, and there are some answers which you have to write and do it. This comes under the right वाला category. क्या आपको समझना है? आपको एक बार लिख के दिखना है कि whether you are getting that flow or not, because that examples in relation to suitability of analytical procedures is an important area. So you have to write that properly and practice. Okay. Come to the next part. Let's see this. Now, when will you rely more on audit evidence? From here only we'll take the code. Is similar to the last answer only, but then I'll take you to the where we had seen this answer. So please come to this part. When will you rely more on the data that you're using for analytical procedures? You rely more when it has SON core feature. Remember SON core: source, nature, comparability, control over preparation, and relevance. So these are the matters that you will look at. Okay. Let's go to the next part. See, now this is extent of reliance on analytical procedures. So when will you rely more on analytical procedures? Same points. SON core here: source, nature, comparability, control over preparation, and relevance. Just that it has with more examples. So you have to just go through the examples and see whether your understanding is clear or not. Okay. So this we had done in the class. Let's go further. Now, investigating the results of analytical procedures. So analytical procedure का results investigate कैसे करेंगे? अभी ध्यान से सुनना. Suppose if the ratio analysis करते समय या trend analysis करते समय, if your answer that you're getting is not matching with what the management is saying, in that case first you will inquire with them. अब inquire करोगे यहाँ पे. Remember in the class I had given you the examples कि अपना 3 साल पहले the payment of salary that we are doing is 5 crores. Then 2 साल पहले 6 crores. Then last year we made the payment of 63 crores. Suddenly अपने ज़्यादा amount of payment कर देता है यहाँ पे. This example you must have written at the beginning of an analytical procedure chapter. तो अगर यहाँ पे 5 crores 6 crores और suddenly increase हुआ to 63 crores, in that case you will first inquire with the management कि भाई what happened, why suddenly the salary payment increased to 63 crores. You will inquire with the management. Now you will wait for the management response. If the management response is such that which is reasonable, if they are saying that sir, what happened is we increased our number of branches, because of that the number of employees also increased, and because of that we had to pay more salary, then you will get satisfactory response. But if you don't get satisfactory response from the management, then in that case you are forced to obtain more of evidence regarding that matter, and for that you have to do other audit procedures. You will have to do test of details to get more information regarding this matter. Okay, that is investigating the results of analytical procedures. Simple. That completes your this part. Okay. Now with that we complete our analytical procedure part. Okay, that is SA 520 is done. In my opinion, it's a very, very important standard. The reason being, analytical procedures in the earlier course was a separate chapter called chapter number 8 था वो analytical procedures, which is now merged with chapter number 4. तो एक पूरे के पूरे old course के chapter को छोटे chapter को उन्होंने डाल दिया अभी यहाँ पे chapter number 4 में. So expect a question, because अगर वो previous course में अगर एक बड़ा एक chapter था, and if it is a chapter, it means it has some relevance. So analytical procedure से expect one question in the examination. In the class regarding analytical procedures, I have given you 13 areas, and वो 13 areas को अभी अपने revise कर दिया. Ensure those 13 के 13 areas are done very, very nicely. Very important answer. Okay, let's go with the next standard, which is the new inclusion in the course, that is SA 610. Okay, now let's start with this part. What is the definition of internal audit function? Internal audit function means, go to your diagram and you will get all the points one by one. देखते हैं यहाँ पे. Internal audit function क्या होता है यहाँ पे? Sir, whenever we appoint a person who will provide us assurance and consulting services, and he will design and evaluate the effectiveness of 3 things, that is GRIN करके अपने लिखा था, that is governance, risk management, and internal controls processes. That is called as internal audit function. So what is the objective and scope of the internal audit function? So in that again we had elaborated on that GRIN matter only. पहले G से आएगा governance, R से आएगा risk management, I से आएगा internal controls. Now let's do this. Please let's do this part. पहले आएगा governance के related. We'll look at their. Remember, if you have done with me in the class, we had done a code called PVAC करके मैंने कोड किया था यहाँ पे. PVAC से आएगा या VPAC या VEPAC करके मैंने किया था. PVAC या VPAC जो भी है. So we had taken here यहाँ पे we had taken that performance management. They will check their ethics. We will check their ethics. We'll check their values. Top management का ethics check करेंगे, values check करेंगे, accountability check करेंगे, whether they are for which matters are they accountable. बोलो company में अगर fraud हुआ, so will you blame the lower level employees या higher level management? You will blame the higher level management कि आपकी company में हमने controls properly लगाए नहीं थे. That is why you are accountable. Next आएगा you will see whether the top management, that is the control environment, is communicating the risk and the controls information or not. इस तरीके से ही आएगा. Okay. Next area is in relation to risk management. In risk management, you will check what all matters. You will identify and evaluate the significant exposures to risk and whether any improvement in risk management is required or not, and you will also see whether internal controls are working properly, and finally you will check whether detection of fraud is done properly or not. So risk management में आगे ये चीज आएंगे, आप आइडेंटिफाई करोगे रिस्क को, यू विल इवैल्यूएट द रिस्क, यू विल इंप्रूव द रिस्क मैनेजमेंट एंड यू विल डू फ्रॉड डिटेक्शन. इस तरीके से वर्क करेगा. ओके. Regarding internal control, what all is covered in your objective and scope as the internal auditor? Regarding internal control, I divided it in your notes into 3 parts. Sir, accounting के related, second आएगा factory के related, third आएगा loss के related. So first is accounting aspect में आएगा financial and operating information. उसमें whether the auditor will check these 5 things, whether identifying, recognizing, measuring, classification and reporting of transactions done properly or not. Identifying का मतलब I told you whether invoices are properly made. Recognizing का मतलब है whether you are recording it in your journal entry. Measurement मतलब recording at the right value. Classify मतलब revenue या capital में you are distinguishing it properly, and report में आएगा whether it is shown in the financial statement properly. So whether all these things are done properly or not, and you will make specific inquiries into individual items including detailed testing of TAP आएगा यहाँ पे, transactions, account balances and procedures. Simple. Next आएगा regarding factory के बारे में आपको क्या जानने की जरूरत है. So in the factory you will try to check the economy, effectiveness and efficiency of operating activities including non-finance activities which are reducing your efficiency. Last में आएगा यहाँ पे laws and regulations. Regarding laws and regulations, what all will you check? You will check whether it is in compliance with the law, regulation and external requirements. And I told you, law होता है देश का, regulator होता है, regulations होता है regulator का, and your policies of the company, that is internal policies of the company, you will check those matters. So laws, regulations and policies का मतलब है law is of the country, regulation is of the regulator and policies of the your company का policies. That is what you are checking in this case. Okay, that completes your second answer regarding internal audit. Third is ways in which the external auditor will make use of the function of the internal audit work. So first was he'll obtain information that is relevant, पहले information ले लेगा वो. Then he may decide to use the work that has been performed by the internal audit as a partial substitution for his audit evidence. So the key word here is partial substitution. If suppose there is an internal auditor is, let's say my internal auditor is Harshita, and Harshita ने यहाँ पे अगर कोई काम कर दिया यहाँ पे, then I will rely on her work and I will then see कि अच्छा मेरे को ये काम करने की जरूरत नहीं है because Harshita ने already ये check कर दिया. That is called partial substitution. But if I go and speak to the management and tell them कि I want Harshita to work as my junior, in that case you will understand then the external auditor may use the internal auditor to perform audit procedures under the direction, supervision, review of the external auditor, referred to as what, direct assistance. इस तरीके से वर्क करेगा. That is called direct assistance. तो पहला पॉइंट क्या आएगा यहाँ पे, obtain information that is relevant. Second पॉइंट क्या आएगा, partial substitution. Third पॉइंट क्या आएगा यहाँ पे, direct assistance. So that is the ways in which the external auditor can make use of the work of the internal audit function. Okay, let's go further. So external auditor का responsibility क्या है यहाँ पे, and who, suppose if the external auditor takes the work of internal audit function and mentions that and gives a report based on that, then for that who is responsible? For that the external auditor is only responsible. अगर मैंने internal auditor का काम लिया and I have done the analysis from my end कि अच्छा internal auditor का काम अच्छा है, I'll rely on it, and then in your audit report you are telling कि चलो this regarding some matter you are telling that you have the confidence because internal auditor has done this work. Now, if something goes wrong in the future, कोई fraud का matter आ गया इसमें, in that case you cannot blame the internal auditor. The entire blame will be taken by the external auditor. He has the sole responsibility. Okay, good question to ask in the MCQs if you ask me कि ये एकदम concept driven question है कि student गलती से इसमें कभी-कभी external auditor लिख देंगे यहाँ पे. So the answer is external auditor. Okay, let's go further to the next part. Let's see this. Objectives of the external auditor where the entity has an internal audit function. So what are my objectives in that case? Okay, so ये थोड़ा वो side वाला answer था, fifth वाला, which was in your chart 3. So let's do this. पहले आएगा whether I can use the work of the internal auditor or the direct assistance of the internal auditor, and if yes, then which areas and to what extent I can use. Next, I'll see if I'm using the work of the internal auditor. First, I'll see whether his work is adequate or not, and whether if I'm using the direct assistance of the internal auditor, I'll see whether I have the capability of giving him direction, supervision, or review. ठीक है ना? Or whether I have to power to give him the direction, supervision, and whether I will be able to review that person's work or not. That I have to check. Okay, that is basically the goal of the external auditor regarding the internal audit function. Okay, let's go to the next area, that is in relation to sir evaluating the internal audit function. So sir, as an auditor, what all functions of internal auditor will you evaluate? For that we have done a code in the class called usko. याद है usko? It's a big area. देखते पहले first I'll check the organizational status of the internal auditor, I'll check the objectivity of the internal auditor, I'll check whether the internal auditor is doing the work as per a systematic and disciplined approach, and I'll check the competence of the internal auditor. ये मैं check करूँगा. Now objectivity के simple points से अपने को go through करना है. We'll see whether the internal auditor has worked free from bias, conflict of interest तो नहीं है, undue influence किसी का तो नहीं है. All these things we'll check. We'll see whether will oversee the employment decisions of the TCWG. Basically, how have they employed the internal auditor? That is what we'll check here. We'll check whether the management has put any constraints or restrictions on the internal audit function. That is what we'll check, because if the constraints have been put, then we cannot rely on the internal audit work that much. And finally, internal auditor should be easy free from conflicting responsibilities. Basically, conflicting responsibility का मतलब ये है कि suppose the internal auditor is also the working in the accounting department of the company, and we made a person who is an accounting department employee as an internal auditor. So you will understand he is doing two roles here. He is making the accounts also because he is part of the accounting department, and he is checking the accounts also because he is an internal auditor, and that is called conflicting responsibilities. मतलब बनाना भी वही है, check भी वही कर रहा है, तो यहाँ पे तो गलत हो गया यहाँ पे. That is basically the factors that may affect the external auditor's evaluation in relation to objectivity of the internal auditor. Okay, let's go further to the next part, that is competence. How do you check the competence of the internal auditor? You will see whether the internal auditor is appropriately resourced, enough people are there under him or not. We will see what is the policy of the organization regarding the hiring, training and assigning work to the any internal auditor. We will look at whether the internal auditor has technical training and proficiency, means whether he knows what he is doing or not. And finally, whether he has knowledge of the financial reporting and the applicable financial reporting framework. Many times what will happen is manufacturing entities will appoint internal auditors who don't have financial knowledge, but who have technical knowledge regarding कि काम कैसे करना है फैक्ट्री में. They have that knowledge. So the auditor is just checking कि whether the internal auditor has financial knowledge or not. Okay, and if that is the case, then the auditor will be satisfied. Okay. Next बात है systematic and disciplined approach. This is a very important point. If you ask me, my favorite point. This tells you कि एक इंसान के काम करने का तरीका कैसा है. So what is the way of working of a person? That is called systematic and disciplined approach. Now in this case, what they have said is this. See, we will see whether the internal auditor has documented every work or not that he has done, whether the internal auditor has done the risk assessment, whether he has work programs in their place or not, whether documentation and reporting is done by him properly or not. अगर ये रहेगा, and of course his own firms, internal auditor का अगर खुद का firm है, then his own firms quality control policies and procedures will check to see his काम करने का तरीका. That is called is systematic and disciplined approach. Okay. Next में circumstances when the work of internal audit function cannot be used. When will you not use it? When the उसको factors are not there. So that is organization status is not proper, or let's say the objectivity is lacking, or the competence is lacking, or let's say the systematic and disciplined approach is not there in place. In that case, you will not rely on the work of the internal auditor. Then you will have to do more work yourself. Okay. Let's go further. Next आगे यहाँ पे determining the nature and extent of work of the internal audit function that can be used. So इसके अंदर examples दिया है यहाँ पे. And the examples they have said here, sir, किसी भी इंटरनल ऑडिटर को हम क्या क्या काम दे सकते हैं, व्हाट ऑल वर्क कैन यू गिव. सो दे आर गिवन हियर, सी एग्जांपल्स ऑफ वर्क ऑफ द इंटरनल ऑडिट फंक्शन दैट कैन बी यूज्ड बाय द एक्सटर्नल ऑडिटर इंक्लूड द फॉलोइंग. फर्स्ट इज यू कैन टेक internal auditor's help for testing of controls. You can take internal auditor's help for substantive procedures, and then they are given in 3 examples. You can take any example under the sun, no problem. So whatever the auditor does, you can put it here, no problem. Normally that we see. So observation of inventory counts they are given. Information system, मतलब the computer system that the organization is using, whether that is relevant to the financial reporting or not, that you can mention. And finally, testing of the compliance with what regulatory requirements. That is what you can check here. Okay, so that matters comes under this part. Let's go further to the next point. Let's see this. Circumstances in which the external auditor shall plan to use less of the work of the internal audit function and perform more of the work himself. तो इसमें अपन ने I think एक कोड किया था called as I think J-Rock करके कोड किया था. In that you will see there, if the work requires more judgment, then external auditor should do the work himself and rely less on the internal auditor's work. If the risk of material misstatement is high, external auditor should do more work himself, rely less on work on the put less burden on the internal auditor's head. If the internal auditor's organized status and objectivity is such that the external auditor feels that doing more work himself, then he should do more work himself. And if the competence of the internal auditor is less, in that case the external auditor will prefer doing more work himself. ठीक है, तो इस तरीके से वर्क करेगा. Come to the next answer. Let's do this. So using the work of internal audit function, let's see this area. So auditor will discuss the matter with the internal auditor regarding any work that internal auditor has done. Auditor will read the reports of the internal auditor to understand the nature and extent of the audit procedures that the internal auditor has done. And finally, auditor will see whether sufficient appropriate procedures have been done by the internal auditor or not regarding any matter. So auditor will see these 3 matters. बोलो discuss करेगा, auditor read करेगा, auditor sufficient audit procedures को देखिएगा कि इंटरनल ऑडिटर ने सफिशिएंट ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स को यूज करके काम किया या नहीं किया. सो डिस्कस इज विद द माउथ, then read is with the eyes, and this is what we do as action for sufficient audit procedures the auditor will do. Comfortable? Let's go ahead with the next part, and that is in relation to discussion and coordination with the internal audit function. Let's see this. In discussing the planned use of the work of the internal audit function at the time of discussion, what matters are useful to be addressed by the external auditor and the internal auditor. First is the NTE. We have a code called NTE, Dr. Mame karke, if you remember. So N से आएगा nature of the work performed, T से आएगा timing of such work, E से आएगा extent of audit coverage. डॉक्टर का डी से आएगा डॉक्यूमेंटेशन, आर से आएगा रिव्यू एंड रिपोर्टिंग प्रोसीजर्स, एंड मामे में आएगा आपका यहाँ पे मटेरियलिटी एंड मेथड्स ऑफ आइटम सिलेक्शन and sample sizes. That will come under this part. Comfortable? That completes our answer in relation to this area. Okay, let's go further to the next areas, which is next part, which is coordinating between the external auditor and the internal audit function. Coordination कैसे होगा? They will both have discussions with each other, where the external auditor will first discuss the significant matters with the internal auditor will share the relevant reports, and he will discuss the significant matters with the external auditor. सबसे सिंपल आंसर यही है, सबसे इजी. ठीक है ना? दिस इज योर क्वेश्चन नंबर 15 ऑफ योर essay 610. Now we enter the 16, 17, 18 the answer, that is direct assistance वाला आंसर. देखते एक एक करके please see here. Direct assistance में पहला आंसर ये था कि sir, direct assistance whenever we the external auditor does direct assistance, we should ensure that we are complying with all the laws, and if we should see that no laws, we are not going against any law, so it should not be prohibited by any law or regulation. That is the first simple point that you have to see. Now the next question was, sir, if the external auditor is using the work of internal auditor, for which matter shall he not use the internal auditor's work? So अगर मैं internal auditor को help use कर रहा हूँ यहाँ पे as a direct assistance, then of course I'll give him some work, but कौन से काम उसको आप नहीं दे सकते. That is what the question is. So you will see at the lower part of the screen, the external auditor shall not use internal auditors to provide direct assistance to perform procedures. That now here you have another code here. First is पहले पॉइंट आएगा जजमेंट का. सो द मैटर विच रिक्वायर सिग्निफिकेंट जजमेंट, द एक्सटर्नल ऑडिटर विल नॉट गिव इट टू द इंटरनल ऑडिटर, इवन दो द इंटरनल ऑडिटर इज वर्किंग एट असिस्टेंस, द एक्सटर्नल ऑडिटर शुड डू इट हिमसेल्फ. ओके. सेकंड, वेयर देयर इज हायर रिस्क ऑफ मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट इज देयर, द एक्सटर्नल ऑडिटर शुड डू द वर्क बाय हिमसेल्फ एंड नॉट गिव द वर्क to his direct assistant, that is the internal auditor. Next is where the internal auditor has already been involved with the management regarding that matter. Let's say the internal auditor was already involved in the inventory matter with the management. Now when you as the external auditor are checking the inventory, you should not give that your inventory matter again to the internal auditor, because the internal auditor then would have set up the inventory system, and the internal auditor would have also, now you're now asking him to check it also. ये गलत हो जाएगा यहाँ पे. So if the internal auditor is already involved with the management regarding any matter, then don't give him that work to check. Finally, all the decisions that the external auditor takes regarding the internal auditor का direct assistance का matter, that matter you will not give it to the internal auditor to decide. Example, where I should use the internal auditor's work for direct assistance. Now this decision you will take by yourself only. तो ये सब आप खुद ही करोगे, आप इसमें internal auditor का assistance नहीं लोगे. Simple. That completes this answer. Finally, last answer is, prior to the using the work of the internal auditor as direct assistant, the external auditor shall do what? External auditor will first enter into a written agreement with the management, and auditor will tell the management, see, first of all, you should not interfere when I give the work to the internal auditor, and you should give me full authority to give the work to the internal auditor. That the auditor will obtain in writing. The external auditor will obtain in writing from the management. Second, auditor will obtain in writing from the internal auditor. Keep please लिख के देना कि whatever I discuss with you, you will not go and tell the management. So you will keep everything confidential about specific matters in which you are involved with the audit. That is external auditor का जो भी काम है, आप यहाँ पे being in the internal auditor, you will not communicate with the management. You will keep it confidential. Okay. Now with that, we complete this chapter, that is in relation to chapter number 4, audit evidence. Ensure that you are doing this chapter properly. This chapter is a very, very important chapter. I always keep telling the students, chapter number 3, 4, 7 and chapter number 10 are the big chapters. You should ensure that these chapters you are doing it very, very carefully. I wish you all the very best. Take care. See you.